and we are going to go ahead and get started here this morning. We got a lot to get to. It's going to be an interactive lesson today. The intent today is to help you identify your own personal core values. And like, has anybody ever done, well, there's a few of you who's done that with me before? 2 people, 3 people. Oh, are you in for a treat? You are in for a treat today. I know what you guys will be talking about at lunch today. So anyway, let's go ahead and let's get started. As we do each week, we're going to start out with core values. So at Cochrane Community Church, we have 8 core values. But before we get to that core value, I'd like to point out that Jesus had a core value, and his core value is that he valued people, right? And we're going to see that today. At Cochrane Community Church, we have 8 core values. Those core values are Bible, prayer, worship, service, community, stewardship, relevancy, and outreach. And any group, whenever they gather, they have their own core values. This particular group, when we gather, we have 2 values. Those values are timeliness and growth. Timeliness and growth. And who knows, maybe we'll even add to that today. Let me just take a moment here to go over a few logistics with you. Next week, no class. Make your own jokes there, right? Next week is no class. The week after, which will be, that Sunday will be New Year's Eve day. We will be meeting, because as I understand, everything is as normal that day. We are going to be doing the one word. It's going to be picking your word for 2024. Who did the one word exercise with me last year? Oh, a few of you did that. We're going to do that again this year. In anticipation for that, I want to encourage you to be in prayer for God to reveal your word for you for 2024. And also in preparation for that, I'm going to do this through the Facebook page, but last year we did this and we're going to do it again. There is, I think it's a 4 or 5 day Bible reading plan on this topic. So I'll look to get that lined up, and we can start that right after Christmas. So I'll put that on there, the link, so that we could all go through that together, those of you who are interested in doing a reading plan together. I don't know exactly how that works. I think I just have to figure out how to share a link, but I'll ask Trace, and she'll fix it for me. When we get on the other side of that, once we get into the new year, we're going to be doing a study, and I've been thinking about this for a while. Hadn't really gone very far, but we have a number of people in here that have not gone through growth principles before. And that's what I'm going to look to do once we get past the first of the year. When some of you that have been with me since a couple years ago when we were back in the preschool room, we did growth principles there. It's been about 2 years, but I think it's time to review and renew those principles. So we're going to do that. So the first lesson of the new year, we're going to be looking at the principle of consistency. We're going to be looking at the principle of consistency. But something else I have to do, and I need to come clean on this. So last week, as I was sharing, I was pretty much a mess. Darcy, do you see a blue light on the end of that? Little. Red. Good. So last week I thought I had a really good lesson last week. Now, that's me being selfish. Um, that's, um, um, that's me saying, you know what, I thought it was good, and then I just didn't record the audio for it. And I felt bad about it. And, and Trace was mad at me, and rightfully so. She said, you taught this lesson, and one of your things is that you should only teach about things that you know about, but you're not taking risks. And I said, well, that's probably true. And it came up that, should I re-record the lesson? Can you re-record this in the basement? And I said, well, I probably could, but I also wanted to throw it out. I think there may be value in reteaching the lesson sometime in January. So I don't know if anybody would be interested in enduring that again. One of the things that I have learned is that there is oftentimes a lot of value in going through something multiple times. Have you ever watched a movie and the second time you watched it, oh, I didn't pick up on that before. Oh, I missed that. So I want to give you this encouragement right now. Go back and listen to Pastor John's sermon sometime during the week. I'll guarantee you'll get something else out of it. If you got time and if you have the interest and you want to go back and listen to one of these lessons again throughout the week, I'm going to encourage you to do that as well. You may get something else out of it. But I just want you to be aware, I may reteach the myth of risk sometime in January. And I'll try to give you some warning about that. I had this note, and Pastor Kent, I think of you whenever I share this statistic. Now, keep in mind that I'm a firm believer that 90% of statistics are made up on the spot. That's a joke, and thank you for laughing. But Pastor Kent shared a statistic up here many years ago, and it was something to the effect of people forget 95% of what they hear within 72 hours. So, if you're in here for an hour, 3 days later, you remember 3 minutes of it. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but let's just entertain that idea for right now. If that is true, then there would be a lot of value in listening to something again, right? So that's where we are. Now, to go back to the myth of risk, I want you to know I did take risk this week. Trace made meatloaf. She did. She said, you know what, this household would operate so much better if you would eat a meatloaf. And I said, you know what, I taught about risk. I'll take that risk. And I'll tell you this, she took steps in the right direction. She improved. on the meatloafing. So that's a good thing. Yeah. It is not. Where's Josh? Josh sent me is Josh in here? There you are. Josh sent me a picture of somebody making a meatloaf that looked like Santa Claus. I don't even know that you should eat that. I don't, what do I'm not it's not that I don't want to like, I'm okay with liking meatloaf. Well, here we are. So anyway, let me also do this. One of our core values is service, right? Now, I want to challenge, in a group this size, I want to challenge you with service. And I want to challenge you with service in a very specific way. There are some of you that come and serve all Sunday morning, but there's also some people that'll come and they'll attend a Bible class and a worship service. But I want you not to lose sight that there's 2 worship services on Sunday. There's 2. And as there's 2, that means in the one opposite that you attend, there's an opportunity to serve. And specifically, there's an opportunity to serve the youth through Mighty Messengers, through being in the nursery, that whole group. And so I understand that there is a need and an invitation for people to serve in that way. And so I want to extend that invitation to you to consider serving in that capacity as we go into the new year. I don't know where to tell you to go for that. I think it's probably with Katie would be the one to quarterback that. But they could use some help, and I'm going to tell you, normally I think they just have 2 adults back there for Mighty Messengers, but I'm a firm believer that there's strength in numbers, especially when it comes to rambunctious children. So like if there were 4 of us back there, it's probably a little bit safer. That would just be my take on it. But I do want to invite you to consider that. I want you to consider that, and just be willing to explore that invitation. So that's all my preamble here this morning. So now I'm under the gun time-wise. So let's get into it. I've been looking forward to this lesson for some time now. And you may say, why have you been looking forward to it? And I've been looking forward to it because I know the dramatic impact this lesson can have. I know the impact it's had for me, and as such, I know the impact it can have for you. And I want you to know that what I share with you today has the potential and the capacity to change everything for you. It has that capacity. Because I know that because it changed my team at work. I will tell you that it has changed the way that relationships in my house are viewed and operate, and it's changed them for the better. It has helped us to understand how and where and why conflicts. Does anybody have conflicts at home? Men, just blink. Just blink. If this is a safe space, right? If you've ever encountered conflicts at home, this is going to help you identify that. It will. And I'll tell you this, it's also going to help you identify the beauty and complexity of God's creation. When God made each one of us, whenever he was done, he said, perfect, just what I wanted, and he sent us down here. Now that said, some of us come to, and we are dramatically different, are we not? We're dramatically different. So let's jump into it. Trace and I got married in June of 2001. And like most young couples, we could not wait to get ourselves buried in debt, so we decided, hey, let's build a house. So we were at the lawyer's office figuratively signing away our lives for a mortgage, and that was on a Friday. There was a long weekend, and on that Tuesday morning, Trace was working nights at the hospital. I got up, I was working in Titusville. I drove out to where our house is today to see the backhoe arrive and take the first scoops of dirt out of what was going to be our basement. I would leave and go to Titusville, and whenever I got to Titusville, the world had changed because planes were flying into buildings. It was September 11, 2001, and I spent the rest of the day like, oh my goodness, I've just signed my life away. What on earth am I going to do? About a month later, I had the opportunity to sit down with a financial planner in Meadville at Perkins, and he kept asking me, what are your values? What are your values? What are your values? And at the time, my sophistication was my value is I don't want my wife to have to work. That was the best I knew to. But he didn't like that answer. He kept, what are your values? What are your values? What I've come to realize is he was wanting to make sure that I matched his values, right? Because every group has their values, right? That's what he was looking for. Now let me fast forward. It's the spring of 2014. I'm at a pharmacy conference and I've shared this story at least partially with you before. I was at a pharmacy conference outside of Washington, D.C., and the keynote speaker comes out, a guy by the name of Joe Tai, and there was about 500 people in the room, and he comes out and he says, how many of you work for companies that have core values? And in that room of 500 people, 500 hands went up. And then he asked the next question. He said, how many of you know what those values are? And 500 hands came down. And that was sort of eye-opening to me, right? It struck me. And it was so obvious that people don't know the values of the company that they work for. That's why I do these with you. I want you to know our values at Cochrane Community Church. These aren't your values, probably a better place for you, right? There's a place that matches your values. So what I started to do is I started to drill these values to my team every week. every week we had a team conference call, and we would go through these core values. And just in case you were wondering, I still have them. The core values were passion for our customers, winning through teamwork, caring neighbor, commitment to diversity, accountability, value for our stakeholders, integrity in all we do, associate development, and respect. Those values were committed to memory. And like any group, whenever you get a group together, there's other values that show up. So we had those values, but the asterisk value in our group was this. It was be yourself, unless you're a jerk. If you're a jerk, we don't want you to be you don't be yourself if that's who you are. Jody on my team, that was always the core value that she would share. But this is for your notes. For your notes. Every group of people shares core values. Every group. You get a group together, you'll find something in common, right? So, it was interesting that as my team started learning the core values, they got better. They started solving problems differently. They would bring things... They would bring things to the table, and because we had identified our values, because we knew what the values of the organization was, we were able to resolve those issues much more quickly than what we ever had been before. And so, for your notes, also note this: values create culture. Values create culture. You see, when your values are not defined, or if they're not known, right? You could be in a place where your values are defined, but you don't know what they are, then they're not observed. And if you don't observe your values, if nobody knows what your values are, what it does is it makes it so difficult to navigate situations. It makes it so difficult. So, the next item I want you to put in your notes is this: values can be aspirational. Values can be aspirational. And let me tell you a story for this. Values can call you from where you are to a better place. So I'm going to turn the board for this because so I've gone from 2001 to 2014. Now I'm in the summer of 2017, August of 2017. I had enrolled in a leadership development group. And there was a conference that I went to, and so I'm in Orlando, Florida in August. So on one hand, you could say, well, you're in Orlando, Florida. The other thing you have to remember with this is August, right? I mean, it's hot. But we go in there, and one of the early sessions in this conference is a session all about core values. And I've probably shared at least parts of this story with you before as well. But the speaker gets up and says, these are the core values of our organization. If these are not your core values, I invite you to leave. He said, I appreciate that you spent your money to get here, but I want you to know these are our values. This is who we are. If this is not who you are, you shouldn't be here. You should go to the help desk. Just tell them that these are not your values. We'll give you your money back. You can go home. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. And I'm sitting, I mean, there's 3,000 people in the room, right? It's this huge ballroom. And they start to go through They start to go through their values. I'm going to share what those values are with you. The first one was model consistency. Is there some connection here? I don't know, right? And I'll tell you, I sat in the back of that room and I thought, what am I consistent about? And at the time, the only thing that I thought that I was consistent about was being inconsistent. Right? That was about the closest I could get. Maybe brushing my teeth, although there's the occasion that I missed that as well, right? So model consistency was the first value. They would go on and they would say that our value is to add value and value people. And as I thought about it, I thought, I don't know that I do this that well. I don't know that I do this well. It would go on, it would have exceed expectations. I'm just going to bring my cheat sheet over here. Willfully grow. Willfully grow. Equip others. Live intentionally. Bob, you want to know where I got intentionality from? Right here. Live intentionally. Lead and lift others. Demonstrate a positive attitude. Demonstrate positive attitude. Let me tell you, attitude. I worked for a large company. We didn't have a whole lot of positive attitude. Like, that was just the reality of where we were right then, right? Nurture transformation. And the last one was allow room for faith. So I'm sitting in this room and I'm looking at these core values are being taught, and I'm like, maybe, no, and go on down. And I remember the invitation. If these are not your core values, this is not where you should be. Ladies and gentlemen, core values are aspirational. So as I sat in that room and I waited for somebody else to get up and nobody else got up, I thought, these may not be my core values, but wouldn't it be nice if they were? Wouldn't it be nice if they were? And I'll tell you, for those of you that have been with me a long time, hopefully you can actually see how some of these values have crept into my teaching style. They have come in and changed. They've been traced. Hopefully you can see that some of this has changed the way things operate in our household. Values make such a huge impact, but so many people don't define them. They just don't define them. Keep in mind, every group has their own values. Every group has, like Steelers fans have different values than Browns fans. And they have different values than Bills fans, right? Steelers fans, they value consistency, right? That's why they don't change coaches. You can judge whether or not that's a good value, right? Some people they value the immediate, and that's why they change quarterbacks all the time, or there's different things that have them. Restaurants have different values, don't they? Families have different values. Have you ever visited somebody's house and you're like, wow, these people here are weird, right? They do things differently. Have you ever been, I don't know, if you're a household that holds hands to pray at the dinner table, and then you go to a house that doesn't do that, doesn't it feel a little awkward, or vice versa? You don't hold hands and then you go to somebody's house and they're grabbing a hold of you. It's weird, right? It's like these are things that happen. Restaurants have different values. Families have different values. People have different values. God made each one of us with our own set of values. Now, our values can also change as we mature, right? This is a note. Pastor John, I see you in the back. You may not remember this, but it was probably a little more than a year ago. He sent me a text, and he said, Jess, how can you be, or he said, Jess, how can I be praying for you? And I said, well, Pastor John, it'd be really nice if you would pray for a Steelers win this weekend. At which point he asked if there was anything else that was more reasonable that he could pray for. We have different values, right? That's okay. That's okay, right? For your notes, values are like a magnet. Values are like a magnet. They can attract or they can repel, right? That's the way values work. Have you ever had an encounter with a business that claimed to value its customers, yet when you get there, you don't feel valued at all? Have you ever had that failure in customer service where it's like, why am I even here, right? You decide to not do business there again. Well, I want to take you on a quick survey through the Gospel of Luke. And I have these verses here, and what we're going to do, we're not going to read all these verses. We don't have time for that today. But this is what I want you to do. I want you to go, and as you go through the Gospel of Luke, I want you to look at the headers to these sections. Hopefully you have a Bible with headers. So I'm going to ask if you would turn with me to the Gospel of Luke chapter 4. We're going to start at right around verse 38. And I want you we're going to go through Luke, and we're going to be turning the pages. I just want you to see what's happening as we go through this book. So at 438, the header to that section reads, Jesus heals many. Is that what you have? Some variation of that? Jesus heals many. Well, let's turn the page to chapter 5, verse 12. It says, Jesus heals a man with leprosy. Look a little further, 5:17. Jesus forgives and heals a paralyzed man. Turn the page to 8:26. It says, Jesus heals a demon-possessed man. At 8:40, it says, Jesus raises a dead girl and heals a sick woman. 9:10, Jesus feeds the 5,000. 9:37, Jesus heals a demon-possessed boy. 13:10. 13:10. Jesus heals a crippled woman on the Sabbath. 18:15. The little children and Jesus. This is when the kids are brought to Jesus, right? 18:35. A blind beggar receives his sight. Jesus heals the blind man. 19:10. 19:10, let's actually read that verse. This isn't a header. But Jesus says, the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. As we look at each of those different stories as we go throughout it, I hope you get a very accurate picture whenever we say that Jesus valued people. And as you go through the Gospel of Luke, you see that. It doesn't matter where they are. Now I'm going to actually ask you to turn the page into the Gospel of John. Gospel of John, chapter 4, verse 1. At this one it says, Jesus talks with a Samaritan woman. This is the woman at the well, right? Jesus came because he values people. It doesn't say that Jesus came because he valued Jews. He went outside, right? He went to the Samaritans, right? He came because he valued everybody. And you know what? That I can say that in the past tense, but I can also say it in the present. Jesus values everybody. And that includes you, that includes me, it includes the people that are not in this building. Jesus values people. He valued people, and he added value to people, and he changed the world. Now, I was presented with an interesting thought the other day, and I guess it was maybe an observation, and it was this. It said, Jesus led with his values. Right? Jesus led with his values. So his value was people. So he always looked to take care of people. But today we have so many people, and I'm going to tell you, especially if you look at people in leadership today, and I don't want to derail this, but the political arena is such an easy target, right? People in the political arena, they don't lead with their values. They lead with their beliefs. And I'll tell you that, if you go into the time that Jesus was walking the earth, there was another group of people that led with their beliefs. Those are the Pharisees, right? Oh, you should do this. But they led with their beliefs. They didn't lead with their values. They weren't taking care of people. They were telling the people. They were just telling the people this is how it should be done. So what this does is this brings us to the point where we need to help identify what are your values. Now, I will guarantee you this. You have values. Tracy, you want to go ahead and... so I have some worksheets here for you. What we're going to do is we're going to go through this process to be able to identify what your values are. And the way we identify our values is going to be through a process of elimination. Okay? So as those come back, I want you to just take a moment here at first to take a look at those values. Just scan through them, and as you look, you'll see that there are a couple extra blanks in the bottom corner, right? There's a couple. We may have missed them. I think there's about 40 some values on this list. It's a pretty comprehensive list. Although there is the possibility that something has been missed, you can feel free to add your own if need be, if you think that there's something missing there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through this exercise a couple of times to help you figure out what your core values are. So, who still needs one? Jenny, you still need one. So they're coming, Merle. They're coming. So when these values come through, this is what you're going to do the first time. You're going to take 3 minutes. And I'm setting a timer. You're going to take 3 minutes and you're going to go through, and the idea is you need to ask yourself, is this my value? And if it's not your value, cross it off. If there's a question about it, cross it off. So take 3 minutes right now, go through, you want to get through all of them once, try to get through all of them once, and just cross out the ones that do not apply to you right now. So 3 minutes beginning now. You got the extras there, Merle? Thank you. Thank you, thank you. About a minute. Don't stress too much the first time through. Just eliminate the easy ones. Eliminate the easy ones. All right, that's time. Eyes up, please. Eyes up. Now I want you to just take a quick look at your worksheet here. How many of you have 15 or more values? Ooh, wow, quite. Anybody have 20 or more? Okay. Well, those of you that have 20 or more, you have your work cut out for you, because we're not done. We got to do this again. So now I want you to go through with the ones that are remaining, and I want you to whittle it down to 10. I want you to whittle it down to 10 values. And let me give you 3 minutes to do that. So 3 minutes starting now. All right, that's time. All right, now you should all be down to 10 values, but you ain't done. You're not quite done yet. This is tough, isn't it? This is tough. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. You're going to go from 10 to 5. So the easy way to do is you just need to look head to head, 1 to 1, A or B, A or B. So I want you to get to your 10. I want you to go from 10 to 5, and then come up, and I want to ask you to write your value, put your name and your values on the board. So we're getting short on time. So get to your 5, come up. I've got 6 markers here. Put your top 5 values on the board, and then we'll spread out for prayer. All right, so we're going to be a little inventive here as we're short on time. But let's take 3 minutes, and as soon as you get to your 5, you can come write them up. So go ahead and begin. Good. If you want to put them on the other board has room also. I just want to take a picture of this to be able to share with you. After you've put your values on the board, I'm going to ask that you spread out to fill the room so we can close with prayer just to help us from a timing perspective.
I lost my corner purse and Darcy left.
Oh, yeah.
We should put it on the third list.
For those of you that help me tear down after we're done here, I'm going to ask you to take a minute. I just want to make sure we get pictures of everybody's values. Because really the teaching isn't done here. I really ran out of time. That was poor planning on my part. But what I want you to be able to do is I'll post these on Facebook later today. I want you to be able just to see the beauty of the different values that people have, right? And I'll tell you, I did this exercise with my kids at the dinner table. I don't know, it must have been about a year ago. It was probably in preparation for this class. And what I found was, for those of you that know my daughters, Taryn specifically, she isn't fast to do pretty much anything. So you know, when I remember her going through and crossing out values, and she read urgency. No, I remember her crossing that one off. But what was really fascinating to me is when Brendan, my older daughter, was going through, one of her top values was fairness. It was fairness, which is why, like, that girl keeps score, like the number of times that she has done dishes versus anybody else has done dishes, like, you know, all that stuff, all that stuff matters to her. She is very big on fairness. And what it did is it allowed us to understand, it gave us a better understanding of where the conflict in our home comes from. It comes from some different values, right? And whenever we understand the values that people have, and you know, whenever we can understand where people are coming from, that it gives us the opportunity to be able to connect with them better, more easily, more fully. So we need some people in that corner of the room. If we could stretch out that way, that would be great. There would be actually one last part of this exercise. I'll give you this as homework. You are down to your top 5, but I'm going to encourage you to look at your top 5, and I'm going to encourage you to rank them. Rank them from 1 to 5. And the way that I would do that is I would look 1 or 2, whichever one loses goes down. And you say, okay, the one that lost and the next one, and just sort of, you shuffle through them so you get your top 5 values all laid out there, because the order of your values matters as well. So for that, I'm going to stop this now.